graders, it's Miss Chastain, and I am so excited today to get to do a writing lesson with you. This is one of my favorite types of writing. You've been working on narrative writing all week. You've been working with Miss Barth and Miss Lee and Miss Stevenson on writing a narrative using information from a story. You've been working with Bloomability. And today we're going to change things up a little bit. We're going to work on writing a narrative, but we're going to use information from an informational text, okay? So if we go through and kind of recap so far what you already know about writing a good story, you know from Miss Barth that it's really important to kind of rehearse your story, kind of think through how your story will go with a beginning and a middle and an end. You know from Miss Lee that it's really important to establish that situation, right, at the very beginning of your story. And what that means is your introduction introduces your characters, the setting, and then you dive right into the action of your plot. And then you know from Miss Stevenson that it's really important to have dialogue in your story, but not just any dialogue. Your dialogue needs to really help move your story along, which means you think about the plot of your story as you write the dialogue. Well, today we're going to use everything that you've already learned, but we're going to focus on how we include information from an informational text, okay? You kind of get to decide what kind of information you'll add into your story, but one of the most important things that you're going to need to do is think through how your story goes, think about the prompt, and then think about what information from the text is actually going to fit. We're going to use the article high volume today as your informational text. So let's look at what a prompt might look like for you. Write an original story about a fifth grader who really wants an MP3 player as a birthday present. Imagine that this child's parent believed the MP3 player will hurt the child's hearing. Be sure to use information from the passage, which we know our passage is high volume, to help you write your story. Okay, so I'm thinking this is about a fifth grader who wants an MP3 player as a birthday gift. I could write an awesome story about a great birthday party and how there's going to be so many fun things to do at the birthday party, like a bouncy house and pizza and cotton candy and cupcakes and, tons of friends and family there. But then I'm thinking, does that really fit with my prompt? And since I need to use details from the text, I better check the story first. Well, I'm kind of realizing the article high volume was all about hearing loss, right? It was about how listening to music really loudly can damage your ears. And I don't really think my story idea about this awesome birthday party is going to work with the information from high volume. So I might need to rethink my story. I think I'm going to need to plan a story that relates this kid that wants the MP3 player. Well, maybe she doesn't get it because her mom knows that it's going to damage her ears. Okay, so let me think through the beginning and the middle and the end of my story. So I'm thinking I could have my main character, Taylor, talk with her mom about her birthday. And maybe Taylor's mom mentions that she decided not to get her the MP3 player. And then in the middle of the story, Taylor could ask her why she changed her mind. And that's when I can pull some information from my text. So I'm going to flip over here to my text really quickly because I'm thinking I need to look for some information about what the mom could say. And maybe the mom starts talking to Taylor about how she learned that really loud sounds, which is the high decibel sounds, can damage the delicate nerve endings called hair cells. So see how I'm thinking through what's going to happen in my story, but I'm making sure that I'm finding parts in my story where I can use facts from my text. All right, let's come back over here to my story plan. And then, maybe towards the end of my story, Taylor and her mom try out an experiment where Taylor goes and gets one of her new CDs, and the mom goes to get an older record, and they listen to the two of them to do, that experiment about, is her new CD really louder than the older record? Because I'm thinking that would go along with the information in the high volume. Let's see. Back from this paragraph right here. So again, I'm thinking about more details that I can be using from my informational article. Okay. So I think I might be ready to get my draft going. Now, before I read you the beginning of my draft, let me just tell you, this is where things start getting hard. Because not only are we practicing a new type of prompt today, we're practicing how to write a story, but using information from an informational text. But we're expected at this point to remember all the other lessons that we've learned about narrative writing, which means I need to make sure I'm starting the beginning of my story today. I need to make sure that I keep in mind what Miss Lee taught me earlier this week about the beginning of a story. All right, so I want you to listen to the beginning of my story and help me check. Do I do what Miss Lee suggests with the beginning of my story? And I like having dialogue at the beginning of my story, so I need to check myself, am I doing what Miss Stevenson taught me with purposeful dialogue? All right, so listen with me and kind of check me. Mom, we need to go to the store this afternoon to get snacks for my party tomorrow, Taylor said excitedly as she skipped into the kitchen. Taylor's mom stood at the counter, flipping through the mail. She took a deep breath. Speaking of your birthday, there's something I want to talk to you about, she said. Taylor knew right away this wasn't going to be good news. Her shoulders slumped as she prepared herself for whatever her mom was about to say. I've been doing some reading this week, and I've decided I'm not going to get you that MP3 player for your birthday after all, her mom stated. Okay. Well, I'll be honest, writers, I think I did a pretty good job here. I started off my story with dialogue, which I know is a good strategy. My dialogue is what introduces my prompt, right? I know that I'm talking about a student who wanted an MP3 player for their birthday, but now they're not getting it. You learn who my characters are, the mom and Taylor. You learn the setting in the kitchen right here, but we also learn the timing, like it's right before Taylor's birthday party. And I kind of set myself up down here to start using some of the facts from my informational text. The mom is about to start explaining what she's learned that made her change her mind about the MP3 player. All right, it is time for you to try this. I'm going to give you a different prompt that goes along with our text high volume. Let's look at the prompt together. Write an original story about a 5th grader who is the first one in her class to get the newest MP3 player on the market. Be sure to use information from the passage when writing your story. All right. New prompt. New story. But using information from high volume when you write your story. All right, let's have some last-minute reminders before you get writing today. I want you to plan quickly before you start drafting. I want you to think through the beginning, the middle, and the end of your story. I want you to kind of rehearse in your head how you think the story will go. I want you to make sure that you think of places in your story where you can fit in some little facts and tidbits from the text high volume. And I want you to think about who is saying or doing something at the beginning of your story. How are you going to start off your story to really introduce who are the characters in your story? And what's the setting of your story going to be? Now, one more super important reminder. Because this is a story, you're not going to announce things like, in the text high volume, it says, or the author states that, because stories don't sound like that. You're going to need to naturally introduce the information through your characters. All right, writers, I think you are ready to get started today. You have a lot to remember and think through. I want you to do your best today. You are making sure you go to your teacher's eClass page and follow their directions about where you are typing this story. But you've got a brand new prompt. You're planning it, and you are drafting the whole thing today. I know you can do it. Good luck.